As we begin this show right now, we are just over 24 hours away from a Kansas City Chiefs football game that counts. And man, it is jam-packed on both sides of the ball. Both teams in the trenches, both sets of skill position players, both coaches, both quarterbacks. I just feel like we have a Brazilian things to talk about. Hello and welcome into a game day edition of Only Weird Games. I'm Joshua Brisco. That's Seth Keysor. We'll see if we get the Brazilian Wi-Fi setup that Nate Taylor needs. Not entirely sure how we're gonna get our game day inactives in a little late today, and we'll see what the schedule has in store for us. But the Chiefs had an extra special pre-game day presser out in Brazil. I know Nate was there asking some of the questions. I will tell you now, I don't think any news was broken, but as has been the case the other international games, it's just a bunch of, not just some local reporters went, but it's a bunch of international reporters asking these big picture questions to Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce, Isaiah Pacheco, Chris Jones, Harrison Butker, Nick Bolton. I think that was everybody out there today. And it's evident just from watching that, Seth, that even though this is a bit of a tumultuous time from a scheduling perspective, even though starting the year in Sao Paulo, Brazil on a Friday night is objectively insane, everybody's on their best behavior and everybody seems just like genuinely very flattered by the reception. As the Chiefs become more and more international, we see more and more of these moments. And I got to say, it's pretty cool. I'm enjoying it.
It's a fun thing to see the Chiefs really kind of lean into the whole world's team thing.
Yeah.
They've got plenty of time to continue to establish that. And frankly, I mean, there's a reason Clark Hunt is leaning into this so much. As much as it might, like you said, make some scheduling stuff goofy. But these are the foundations you lay for the next 50 years. And that's the name of the game. You know, there's not a lot of America left to conquer for the NFL or for individual teams. People like, yes, there's a generation that is more Chiefs leaning because the Chiefs have been so great, right? That happens. Just like that's why there's so many certain age of Cowboy fans, because the Cowboys were great at a certain age. So there's that. There's the Taylor Swift phenomenon. But if you can get yourself worldwide, there's entire markets to conquer. I get it. I'm still not thrilled about the Chiefs practicing in what looked like a shot of my backyard, but I like, and that this is such an interesting thing to me. It's the most, it's just, the NFL is a huge company.
Massive. $1 billion industry, they say.
I don't understand. I know they have athletic clubs. That's what a Brazilian person explained this to me when I made the joke about, why are they practicing at like a high school field? Someone very sincerely from Brazil, shout out to you, I appreciate you, was like, oh, I'm Brazilian. We have a lot of athletic clubs, like a version of that. And my question is like, were there any others? Like, and again, I appreciate the place that opened itself up, but I'm just like, what an interesting phenomenon to see what they're doing. And as someone's pointed out, Zach Byers points out in the comments, they're just doing a walkthrough today. It's not that big a deal. You're not sprinting, but can you imagine? Like, it didn't even look even. Like, I was like, well,
no, it looked like the high school football field that I practiced on my team that played 11-man football and then had 13 players at the end of the season. That's what I saw. That and I was immediately like, oh, I could twist an ankle in that. It's somewhere in the dirt there. The practice fields, walkthrough field setup today, not ideal. And I absolutely, to your point, and Andy Reid seemed optimistic today. He wasn't going to roast anybody if he wasn't. But the playing surface tomorrow night will be a topic, and it'll be a pregame discussion and something to get a closer look at there. Obviously, that will end up being a massive factor, if it's a factor at all. And what you hope happens is you get one report pregame. It says the field looks good, and the next thing you know, the game's over. And it just never comes up. You hope that's the case. The NFL's had several swings at getting this right. So I do kind of enjoy the internationality of it all. The field thing is the one that just you have to get it right. If you can't get it right, we shouldn't be doing this until you get the fields right. That feels relatively reasonable. But to the point you make about like how many Cowboys and Steelers fans there are across America, I hadn't really thought about the next 50 years. I'm certain the Hunt family has, and I am certain that lots of people have thought about the implications of this going forward. I shouldn't have used one of Seth's buzzwords. The ramifications of this going forward, where everybody, I think, has some version of the story about rooting for a team for some arbitrary reason at like age 7, and then that team had a chokehold on them for the rest of their natural lives. Like that's, my Phoenix Suns fandom is the easiest one. Like, that's out of market. How'd that happen? Well, my grandparents moved out there. I started rooting for the Suns, and they've never won a championship, and they maybe never will. And I just get to live with that now, roughly 82 times every NBA season. That happening and creating these international fans around the world, but specifically you think about all the stuff they've done in Germany and going back to that international game, and all the stuff in Brazil and the Taylor Swift of it all. You are building out what 50 years from now, when nobody currently with the team is with the team, you're still going to have Kansas City Chiefs fans around the world because that was the first team they had a reason to root for. Maybe they love Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce. Maybe they love how Patrick Mahomes plays. Maybe they liked the color scheme more than the other team they played on the road that year. But that really is very cool. And maybe I'm becoming a corporate shill in my early middle age, which is what I'll call being exactly 30 until Seth corrects me. But like that feeling of watching this sport and the team from my city and the team that I root for just grow this progressively larger international footprint. Yes. That's really cool.
It is. So I have a unique perspective on that, being a Chiefs fan from Minnesota, which obviously is international. Some days it feels like a different world. Seriously. One of the reasons I became a Chiefs fan because my dad was attending Nazarene Theological Seminary in Kansas City in the early 90s during the Joe Montana era. I've told that story a lot. And then, like you said, you just get hooked. Montana found Willie Davis on the right side of the end zone at Mile High on Monday Night Football, and I was like, I'm going to love this team forever. And I have. The reason I got into this job was basically an accident because I was on internet messaging boards. Kids, we'll talk about what internet messaging boards were at some point. Just to have someone to talk Chiefs with, because everyone, is either a Vikings fan with a smattering of Packers fans. That's pretty much it, right? And it's a cool thing. One of my favorite things about visiting Kansas City, besides the food, besides going to games, of course, besides seeing you and Nate and
those were all in order, by the way. 1, 2, 3.
Seeing I'm really usually excited to see Milo and I guess also our friends Clint and Susan, but whatever.
The food is still first. I get it.
Yeah, the food is still first. So I love all those things. I love seeing. I've got my good friend Isaac. It's awesome, right? But something I love driving around Kansas City and seeing Chiefs stuff everywhere.
Yeah,
like you genuinely don't understand. If you're from Kansas City, you don't understand what it's like to go all week, all month without seeing a single Chiefs thing anywhere. Because when you go out to eat, someone's wearing a Chiefs jersey somewhere in the room. When you're driving around town, it's all the billboards, all the whatever. And it's a cool thing seeing it become more international, see it become larger. It's a really cool thing because it expands it more. And so maybe people like me, I run into more Chiefs fans now. I get to yell "Go Chiefs" at someone in the parking lot every now and then here in Podunk, Minnesota. That's a cool thing. And here's hoping they're on their way to expanding the dynasty and hopefully seize the title of the new the modern Tom Brady and Bill Belichick from Jalen Hurts and Nick Sirianni after their one Super Bowl.
I'm going to just say that, I hope in 10 years I'm hosting this show with real Sao Paulo Chiefs fan, like that's the handle that I want. You can go to real Frankfurt Chiefs fan.substack.com and you can go ahead and get some new analysis there. Let's get into the game that's happening here, Seth. Let's go ahead and pick on a few things that we're excited to talk about or things that could be problems for the Chiefs tomorrow night. And I really, this is so football guy of us. And I just want to pat ourselves on the back. We're not talking about Patrick Mahomes or Justin Herbert or Ladd McConkey or Hollywood Brown first, even though all of those guys will have tremendous impacts on this game tomorrow night. We're starting in the trenches. I think rightfully so, because both sides of the ball have massive, if not questions at tackle, massive tests coming at tackle. Let's start from the Chiefs side. You've been impressed by Josh Simmons throughout the preseason. Again, talk about passing every test so far. Physically, mentally, performance-wise, I'm talking knee, brain, and on the field. If not A pluses across the board, his report card is clean everywhere for Josh Simmons. Then at left guard next to him, Kingsley Suamataia had some more ups and downs throughout the preseason process. Now we're here for a game that matters, a defense that's going to be trying their best as opposed to preseason where things are a little more simplified. Although I think the Seahawks brought some energy to that game when Kingsley was out there. But regardless, this is a huge opening test for Josh Simmons and Kingsley Suamataia. What are you concerned about? What are you hoping to evaluate? What do you think is going to happen?
The big thing for me is from a mental perspective with Kingsley Suamataia, he kind of has everything to prove, especially in pass protection. There's so many layers to this. I want to see how Kingsley holds up in one-on-one situations. I want to see how the Chiefs protect him from one-on-one situations. There's a chance that you end up, I'll probably end up charting Suamataia and Simmons snaps. I'm not going to do it every week like I did during the preseason, but I'm sure it's one of the things people are going to want to know the most about, especially if it's a really obviously tough game or a really obviously great game. People love hearing the ins and outs of that. But there's layers to this. It wouldn't shock me if you end up in a situation where you only see Suamataia in maybe 7 to 9 or so one-on-one situations on passing downs. Because there's just so many things you can do, right? You can slide protections, etc. I thought it was noteworthy that in the Chiefs' final preseason game, there were a couple of movements that the Bears utilized to try to get a one-on-one isolated on Kingsley Suamataia with like a last-minute shift inside. And then one was that, one was a blitz, and one was a stunt. And I mean, they were in a preseason game intentionally kind of targeting him a little bit, and he held up pretty well that particular game, which is great. I want to see how they protect him, and I want to see how he holds up in those one-on-ones. But maybe the biggest thing I'm interested in that then loops in Simmons, I obviously want to see how he does one-on-one, how they weaponize him if he is playing well. They used to isolate Mitch Schwartz on the right side all the time that allowed them to slide protection left constantly, and it worked, right? So I want to see how all that works, but I really want to see how they handle the Chargers' movement up front. And so last year, the Chargers don't have this incredibly great or incredibly deep pass rush group. They've got some competent guys out there for sure. But, with Joey Bosa gone, and he's obviously kind of been struggling with injuries the last few years, they don't have like a superstar out there. Khalil Mack is still very good, and that's a big test for Simmons.
He's the name of a superstar, but he's not superstar levels of Khalil Mack at this point in his career.
Right. Yeah. He's still very good. Yep. And he's a power guy. So we'll see how Simmons handles him. But what they were able to generate a lot of pressure.
He's 34. I'm sorry. He's extremely good at that. His career arc has been remarkable. Sorry. Just was like, no, that's Khalil Mack. 34.
That aging thing, it comes at you fast. You know what I mean? You're just
for him, I guess. I mean, I'm feeling it, but
so I want to see the way the Chargers were able to generate pressure last year is their defensive coordinator did a really good job with movement up front, stunts, twists, things like that, that really tested the Chiefs offensive line's communication. It's something that Trey Smith at times with Jawan Taylor, they've fallen victim to some of that occasionally. The left side of the line really struggled with it. And after it lost a couple times, they would send variations of simulated pressures or stunts, counting on Mahomes to bail, assuming that it was going to work. So what they were often doing is they would loop in and like the edge rusher, they'd loop him inside, right, on a stunt, and then rather than having someone fully rush the outside, they would almost hang back like a spy, wait for him to break the pocket, and then sprint towards that open lane. They did it multiple times. It was one of Mahomes' worst games in terms of pocket presence. He had 3 or 4 self-created pressures that game. I want to see how Suamataia and Simmons handle those games because they're going to see that a lot. They're going to see games, especially rookies. They're going to try to throw a bunch of different things at them. How they handle that will determine how the game looks on obvious passing downs, because that's really when you can send looks like that. You can't usually send looks like that on 1st and 10 when you think they might run the ball, because if you're like running a stunt and they run right at that spot, it's like, wow, like parted like the Red Sea. This is amazing. Yeah. So that's the biggest thing for me with the offensive line. And then there's still another layer to this. I'm going to be writing about this tonight and tomorrow morning in the Chief of the North newsletter. Honestly, the offensive line might just take up the whole thing because I've got 5 other things I'm looking at. But it's also the run game. I want to see, are they going to do a little more under center, a little more? Let's see what Suamataia, Simmons, and Humphrey and Smith. I mean, that is, in theory, 4+ run blockers right next to each other. That can be a huge advantage in the NFL. The Eagles rode that advantage, and I'm not saying the Chiefs' offensive line will be as good as the Eagles. I'm saying if you can get an advantage like them, you can ride it the same way they did. And you can do that in a way that really protects your quarterback and makes his life easier.
And it would just, Isaiah Pacheco said today, the presser in Brazil, I mentioned he's on like a revenge tour now. It starts tomorrow and all of that, which is good. I always want my running backs to be on a revenge tour. I don't even care if it's true or not. If I want Saquon Barkley on a revenge tour if I'm the Eagles right now, right? Just you need revenge on the mind to play running back in the NFL, I think. But to just be able to get back to that point, and it really does, especially for Pacheco, it's gotta be blaring at this point. Not like you came back from a brutal injury. You made an impact. You got back into the rotation to try to help your team win down the stretch, and you didn't have the same legs that you had before your injury. So now he's gotten through this offseason, and he's in a position now, I think, to successfully be a little bit underrated. The Chiefs' entire running game last year, even when it was effective, was not explosive and kind of plodding. It would make a lot of sense to me for the Chiefs to come out in this game, and we talked about, obviously, no Rashee Rice, and Jalen Royals has been officially ruled out. Looked like it was trending that way for a while. He's out. Omar Norman-Lott is questionable, I believe, officially for tomorrow, so keep that in mind. But if you're in a position where you are still able to spread out the field with Xavier Worthy and Hollywood Brown, obviously, you got to know where Travis Kelce's at, and then you piece together, is it Juju, and is it Tyquan Thornton, or how do you spread out the defense? If you get to a situation where you're getting a favorable matchup in the box, favorable numbers there, and you say, hey, we're just going to play the numbers game with 4+ level run blockers, and Juwan Taylor, who's fine. Like he's not a plus run blocker, so it feels like we're always leaving him out as like, wait, these 4 great run blockers and also this bum. But like, hey, we have an offensive line that is actually, and this was also true for a lot of last year, but we have an offensive line that is supposed to be built to have a more impactful running game. Pop out and knock out 10 of those against the Chargers. Not 10 30-yard plays, but 10 strong runs where you go, okay, you know what? The Chiefs can move some bodies in the trenches again. I obviously would love to see that.
It can be a huge difference maker. We know a lot more through analytics now that, you don't necessarily need to run the ball well to set up play action, to have play action be effective. But we also know that even when, like, running the ball effectively, like legitimately, efficiently, with an explosive here and there, is a legitimate way to win games. It's a legitimate way to sustain drives. It's a legitimate way to set up looks, even if play action doesn't rely on running the ball well. Having the threat of it depends on how you're doing it. Running some of that, inside zone out of gun stuff, it just doesn't move defenders the same way from lining up under center and doing a full-fledged play action. Now that forces Mahomes to turn his back to the defense. I personally wish Andy would do a little more of that kind of stuff. There's some offenses that really rely on like the Kubiak type tree. They do a ton of under center play action, boot type stuff. You see, like from the McVay tree, you see a lot of that kind of stuff. I personally think that leans so much into what he does well.
Right, he's so good on the move. He's the best we've ever seen on the move.
And you have an automatic advantage with him if he's one-on-one in space against a defender, he frequently wins that matchup. And so you don't have to be as afraid about unblocked guys, provided he's got the space. So my hope is to see them really set that stuff up. It will make everything else easier. And again, they don't have a particularly good running back room. Hopefully Pacheco can be what he was, an NFL average running back, and you just start plowing the road. That's great. But I think they're built to run the ball well, and that does every offensive lineman I've ever talked to thinks that makes it easier to pass block. And part of that is because now you're passing the ball on 2nd and 3 or 3rd and 1. And you have the whole playbook. And that's where some of this stuff is correlation versus causation, right? You can be, if you're a more effective team, and this is why running the ball can matter. If you're a more effective team on 1st and 2nd down, that makes 3rd down way easier. Or maybe you never see 3rd down. And I mean, like the playbook at 2nd and 4 is literally anything. And that is something the Chiefs just struggled with at times the last few years. So hopefully they can get back on track with that. It's some sicko stuff. But when you turn over the left side of the offensive line, and the left side of the offensive line was kind of quote unquote the biggest problem last year, that's a big deal. So that's the first thing. And I'm glad they're going up against a very kind of sophisticated pass rush that doesn't have stars, but makes you think. And that's great for rookies to see.
I'm glad you remembered the whole thing about.
Not saying they'll do great against it.
Oh, yeah, but it's the game's barely count so far. No, I've told you I will deviate from Nate Taylor in this regard. I think the result of this game matters. The process matters, which we all agree on that, I think. Before we flip the field and talk about, we're just a couple of ground and pounders, dude. You and me, we get in here, we podcast, and we get airmail Nate Taylor out of here, and all we can do is talk about offensive linemen and running games, as you and I have often done for the last decade. Before we do that, though, I'm calling all Chiefs fans, because you could be on the field at the 50 inside GEHA Field for the official coin toss at a Chiefs home game this season. Visit Chiefs.com/GEHA now. Enter to win a chance to be on the field for a once-in-a-lifetime view of the pregame coin toss. Plus, you can score other exclusive prizes. Enter for a chance to win at Chiefs.com/GEHA. GEHA is the proud partner of the Kansas City Chiefs. Second time out, we come back. We're going to talk about the Chargers run game and the Chiefs front seven.
Shop Chiefs tickets and more with no fees. Plus, save big with code KCSN at ticketsforless.com, the official ticket provider of KC Sports Network.
What's up, guys? I'm BJ Kissel, founder and CEO of KC Sports Network, and I'm here to talk to Kansas City businesses. If you rely on technology, you need an IT support team that's not just another vendor, but a true IT partner. That's why I want to introduce you to my friend and neighbor, KJ Miller. He is a VCIO at ThrottleNet, the Midwest's highest rated and most reviewed IT support company. They've been in business for more than 25 years, helping companies stay secure, productive, and ahead of the curve. They aren't just IT support, but they provide data security, IT strategy, and cloud software services. They do it all, and their reviews show they do it better than anyone else. So if you want to hear about how ThrottleNet can help your local business, join the conversation with myself, KJ Miller from ThrottleNet, and our resident genius from KC Sports Network when it comes to IT, at least as he's affectionately known by us, Mr. Craig Stout. Click the link in the description to hear how ThrottleNet can help you.
So it sounds like Najee Harris is good to go. Rookie Amari and Hampton, certainly a major part of that backfield. We'll see how the Chargers will do it. But I don't want to speak out of turn. I do think Jim Harbaugh is probably going to want to run the football tomorrow night. If I had to guess, I think the brainchild of Jim Harbaugh and Greg Roman's probably going to involve a little bit of the ground game. Seth, I don't think we actually talked about where we wanted to go on this topic. I think we just agreed that we wanted to talk about this. Where's your head at when you think about the Chargers running game?
Well, last year they didn't run the ball well. And if you're wondering whether that drove Jim Harbaugh nuts, you could just watch every single presser that he ran, and every single presser, it felt like, with his offensive coordinator, with anyone, really, we got to run this ball better. Now, they never really said how, which is kind of one of those things that always, there's a judge up here that always tells people, I think I've said this before, where he just says, that's not a plan, that's a wish. And I've hung on to that because it's a good quote. And it makes you think, you just don't have a plan. They just wanted to run the ball better. Their offensive line wasn't very good. They went out and got Becton. That seemed to be the big move that they're making. And he's a good run blocker. He's a body mover. They drafted a running back in the second round who's kind of a big back, but also very explosive. So you can see the vision there. You can see what they're trying to do. The problem for them is then Rashawn Slater goes down, and Slater is an excellent run blocker as well as an excellent pass blocker. So I assume they're going to slide Joe Alt over to the left side, and now they're right back with Pipkins, I want to say, at right tackle. Okay. We'll see how it goes. They're going to want to run the ball. Is that how I would do things if I had a guy who kind of plays quarterback like a cyborg? No, I wouldn't. But whatever, I guess, to each their own. I have no idea how the Chiefs' run defense is going to look. It's really early in the season, and it would not shock me if the Chiefs give up like 7 yards per run tomorrow. Derek Notty's back in town. He's going to be your starting nose tackle. Norman Lott, a guy that you were kind of counting on to win some one-on-ones in the run game, might play, might not. I don't know. Now, what the Chiefs will likely do, they're going to do some of the things that they often do when they know a team wants to run the ball a lot, which is, you bring in Leo Chanel, you have him line up, as a Sam type, beyond the edge, and have him win some of those one-on-ones, and then you attack the line of scrimmage with Tranquil and Bolton. It's something they've done. You give up something over the middle of the field, so you got to be careful. But I don't know if Spags is going to be willing to do all that. It would not surprise me if Spags is like, nah, let's just keep running the same thing. It's September. We'll see. I have no idea. And the other thing is, even if you're running the ball, and we've talked about this before, even if you're running the ball for 7 yards a carry, you're not running the ball for 7 yards every time. And sooner or later, Chris Jones will get one. Nick Bolton will get one. Tranquil or Chanel. Someone will get one to where now it's 2nd and 12. Then you got to do things differently. And that's where I'm really curious to see how the Chiefs try to isolate some of their offensive linemen, similar to how they were able to last year to get some quick wins. But the defense against LA's ground game, even though they weren't good running the ball last year, they weren't. I'm still worried. Like, that's one way that a game can stay close is, you shorten the game. I mean, you've heard this a million times. You shorten the game, 8 drives per person or per team. You've got it to where it's a 1-possession thing because it's a bunch of field goals, and then it comes down to the last drive. Now, the problem for the Chargers is that is not the way to beat the Chiefs. They always win those games.
Right.
Like,
and the Chargers, it feels like, never win those games.
I know. And so it worries me to an extent. I don't know how much it affects the outcome if they don't hit some explosives, though.
So I'm just staring at the depth chart over here on my second screen. If you're just wondering, if you're watching right now and you're wondering, why is Josh just staring at the words Derek Notty on his other, that's what's happening. That's what I'm doing. It looks so weird, man. I know we talked about this multiple times. I talked about this on everything else with Joshua Brisco Monday on KCSN. New episode live tomorrow at noon, Friday at noon, game day, everything else. How about that? We'll talk about it more then. I am not banging the drum on this one because I think that either people don't know about it or because people are desperate to hear me talk about it more. I keep talking about the Chiefs defensive tackles because I keep thinking about the Chiefs defensive tackles. It's just what's filling up the gaps in my brain right now. When I open my mouth, what comes pouring out is, there's not enough beef. There aren't enough guys here. The thing, I'm going to try to hit you with a spin zone here, Seth, and I know you're not going to like it because I don't like it. Jerry Tillery, you're playing 75% of the snaps.
Probably.
You have to.
If Norman Lott doesn't play, and here's the funny thing with Jerry Tillery, that might work out just fine.
Right, but it is saying, hey, Jerry Tillery, here on a 1-year kind of like rejuvenation deal.
Right.
You need to be Tershawn Wharton all year, who just got a ton of money in Carolina. Now, Wharton's younger, and so that, you get more money as your first major contract and all that stuff. But the only plan I see here is that Derek Notty plays the 20 to 30% of the snaps that he or Mike Pennell played last year, which is, you add up, it's about 50% of the snaps. If Omar Norman Lott was brief Chiefs legend Keandre Coburn, and that's what he did in college, my tune would be totally different. It'd be, putting a lot on a rookie who is getting his first NFL action, but at least he's done this before.
Sure.
And you optimistic about Omar and still acknowledge
he's not a one tech.
No, this team has on the active roster has 3 3-techs and 1 tech who they let walk in the offseason in favor of a 34-year-old who they just cut. And it's just strange. And I guess I'll say, look, you already said his name once. Maybe we're in Nick Bolton's true Patrick Mahomes era where you say, hey man, you've only got so much help here. We've you still got Chris Jones in front of you. That's big. And you got a good secondary. But
right.
Everything in the run game is your responsibility to make sure they're right. Because if everybody's lined up and then you make a play, then we're going to survive this thing. But this isn't like a snarky, like earn your money, Nick Bolton thing. I don't want to put all that on your Mike linebacker who's starting off the ball, who's not there to actually keep himself clean, something that he can't physically do. If Mekhi Becton's free and squaring up Nick Bolton, that's advantage Chargers. And that's not Nick Bolton shade. It's shade cast by Mekhi Becton's giant body. Like that. So it's strange. And it might work out fine. And we haven't talked about this as much in the post-Pennell thing, where you have the inside-outside flexibility of Mike Dana and Charles Omenihu. We haven't talked about that because that's an awesome thing they can do to rush the passer from the interior. You and I love Charles Omenihu more than most people love Charles Omenihu. I'm breaking the bit to say that, and you can use this against me in the future when I tell people that you hate Charles Omenihu. But I love Charles Omenihu. I want him on the field as much as possible. I don't want him playing one tech either. It's just so odd.
Yeah, unless they're going to like shift their defensive game plan to a lot more.
Is there a big surprise? Are we going to come back on Tuesday and go, holy bleep, we haven't seen Spags do this in Kansas City ever?
Yeah, and that's where, like, okay, let's say, and I mean, you still have a guy technically lined up at one tech, but let's say you change to some kind of almost exclusively single gap look on defense to where, rather than having your nose tackle try to control 2 gaps, you're just shooting everyone at a gap and you run more run blitzes. Spags has done that in the past. And it's always hilarious because I never know when he's going to do it. And then he does it. I'm like, hey, he did the thing. And then
they have the personnel for it.
Yeah, you have the personnel for it. Tranquil and Bolton are both really comfortable going downhill. Chanel's really comfortable going downhill. Honestly, they've got defensive backs that are comfortable going downhill. So I could see that. And it's just the same thing in terms of, talking about pass rush. You got to get them to that situation if you want to have an effective pass rush. If you want Chris Jones isolated against Pipkins at right tackle, you got to get to 3rd and 6, give or take. Like you have to. That's the whole, they always, and it's not always like this, but it's a cliche for a reason. You stop the run so you can have some fun. You need that. So I'm really curious about it. Fortunately, they've got ends that are really comfortable setting the edge against the run.
Yep.
But that interior, I'm curious what the plan is. And again, maybe it'll be a really heavy run blitz plan, and I'm here for it if that's what happens.
It really is the thing in this game that, like, it seems like such an obvious thing to point out because we've been talking about it since they cut Mike Pennell. And my heart is open to tomorrow night going, wow, yeah, we saw something totally different. We just weren't expecting it all, and the plan makes more sense now. But either way, you still have to survive the season. And there's 1 tech on the roster. Again, it's Derek Nottie, who I like, but the Chiefs didn't like him this spring very much. Again, I assume that Norman Lott's going to be active, and maybe we get a elevation for Marlon Tuipulotu or one of the other new guys, the former higher draft picks that they brought into the practice squad. Maybe one of those guys shows up and just gets a little bit of space. But man, it's just a strange one. I almost think they have to call up somebody. I can't remember how far out the deadline on that is, but we're close. It's really weird, and it does give me some pause, and it does seem like it's making life harder for all the linebackers. And I don't know. I'm genuinely quite curious to see what the answer is, because if they just play exactly what we expected them to play, and they just get moved around on the interior, we're all gonna say we talked about this on Tuesday. We talked about this on Thursday. I can't remember. Tucker is asking the question. I was trying to remember if the call-up deadline is 24 hours before game time, which if that's the case, we would be very, very close to it right now. The deadline of that may have passed. I'm not I can't remember. I'll look it up while Seth makes me feel bad about this anyway whatsoever. I don't know. And you're not going to, because I don't know what to do with it either. It's just so strange.
The unknown is something we usually love in football. We always think that players that we haven't seen anything from are going to be awesome and that kind of stuff. The unknown here is a little weird because it just seems so anti what they were planning on all off season. And again, maybe them liking Norman Lott is a sign that they want to do more gap shooting type stuff and run defense. It certainly goes much more towards Chris Jones's strengths as a run defender. So, I mean, who knows? Spags has never been particularly married to one style of defense. He has almost always had a space-eating nose tackle on the field on first and second down. So,
real quick,
we'll
say, I'm seeing the story here. Practice squad players can be activated on game day before the team announces they're inactives, which is 90 minutes before kick. So up to 2 players. So I guess they could. I'm sure all the practice squad guys all traveled and everything. So Jalen Royals didn't, but I assume that maybe we'll hear a little bit of that for tomorrow. I don't know.
Yeah, I guess we'll
Sorry,
find
Seth,
out.
I interrupted you mid-thought. Yeah,
no, it's that's good for our listeners. Probably would have walked away being like, "Why the crap didn't they tell me that?" So that's good information to give.
No, don't hold that over our head, listeners. We can't live up to that standard.
Yeah, we are not. We are here to inform of certain things and entertain regarding certain things. Those specifics, follow Matt Derrick on Twitter. He will tell you
Seriously,
all sorts of things about this stuff that you didn't ever know you wanted to know, and you're still not sure you do want to know, but you're kind of glad you heard it still.
But now you know.
Yeah, and now you know, and you'll never get it back. Like that, whatever that replaced in your brain, it's gone, man. It's gone forever. So yeah, I'm worried about it, but I also here's the one thing: if the Chiefs' passing attack is back to what we became very, very used to seeing with consistency prior to the last 2 years with the various things that we've talked about to death, it doesn't matter. Like we used to talk about that weekly almost, how this idea of running the ball against the Chiefs was stupid and never worked because their offense was too good. If the offense, let's say, just for example, I hate doing fan fiction. Let's say the Chiefs get the ball first, they go down, they score a touchdown, and the Chargers have some great grinded out drive that takes up a bunch of time, ends in a field goal, and the Chiefs drive down quickly and score a second touchdown.
Right.
That game plan suddenly starts to fly out the window. And so that's going to be a huge thing about the run defense this year. Man, it would be great if we didn't have to worry about the run defense. Because remember when we didn't worry about the run defense? Because I remember when we didn't worry about the run defense. And so that's going to be, it's an entire new aspect, or not new aspect, an old aspect of complementary football. If the Chiefs can stretch the field legitimately with Worthy, Brown, and Thornton, which Worthy and Brown shared the field last year for a handful of games, while Brown, to hear him tell it, still wasn't 100%, wasn't really folded in the offense the way he was looking like he was going to be. And without Tyquan Thornton, who should be a legitimate field stretcher, well, not should, might. It's a much better way of saying that. Yeah. If they can hit a shot play or two, it doesn't really matter that much. It just doesn't. And that's the beauty. That's the beauty of big plays, right? It's like, man, boy, they had a couple of great grinded out drives. Like, yep. And we had 2 50-yard gains and scored more points on those 2 plays. That's the beauty of the deep ball, of explosive plays and stuff. So that'll be something to keep an eye out on too, if the Chargers get thrown off their game plan in terms of what the Chiefs offense looks like.
We'll take a timeout and come back and talk about both passing games. We've been very good. We've saved the quarterbacks and the pass catchers until the very end. You started to lean there a little bit, but I think we made it. I am realizing more and more as we have this conversation how baffled I am and how interested I am in how that front seven comes together tomorrow night. But I feel pretty good about the secondary and very interested in what that front seven is going to look like in the passing game. So we'll talk about that right after we get some bets from our dear friend Benny.
What's good, everybody? KCSN betting analyst Benny Heiss here. I will be talking about my favorite play for the Chiefs game coming up in just a second. But, something hit me as I was driving to the Missouri side, ironically for something not available on the Kansas side. But I cross over and I think to myself, I just can't get over how long sports fans living in Missouri have been waiting. Feels like forever. We don't have to wait much longer because DraftKings Sportsbook, yep, the big one, America's top-rated sportsbook app, is coming to the Show Me State. And you might be thinking to yourself, yeah, but I still got to wait on the sidelines until December 1st. No, You don't. You can actually sign up right now. And when we go live, new Missouri customers get $300 in bonus bets just for placing a $5 bet. $5, right? That's not even as much as a pumpkin spice latte that's going to take over the whole season and ruin your fall and your brunch afternoons in football. But DraftKings can help you, right? It's DraftKings. You got live in-game betting. If your team starts hot, you can jump in mid-play. Lightning fast payouts. None of this wait 3 days for your money nonsense. You've got more ways to get in on the action, all from your phone. When we go live, you'll be betting with the sportsbook trusted by millions. Safe, secure, fast withdrawals. Everything that you want. Well, except some sort of a guarantee that your team's going to cover the spread. That part's still on you. But before we get to that, let's talk a little bit about this Chiefs-Chargers game. And I like the under at 45.5 as they head over to Brazil. This is a grass surface that was heavily criticized last year. And I know that Green Bay and Philadelphia put up some points a little bit late, but it took them a long time to do so. That doesn't really line up with what Kansas City does. They've been the best second half under team since 2023, going 29-12 in second half unders. They've stayed under essentially by 4.2 points per game. That's what they do. And factor in both these teams are going to be okay going with the run. If it's low scoring early on, they're not going to try to overcomplicate this. I like Kansas City to continue to use Pacheco now that he's healthy. Mix in Hunt, mix in some play action, keep the chains moving. And if the Chargers are on a lead, they're going to sit with that too. Plus, it's still a Jim Harbaugh team that is going to be able to lean in on that heavy run game as well. So factor in some field conditions. Usually these games that are international tend to be low scoring as well. I think this sets up really well. That line has not moved an inch from 45.5, telling me that they expect maybe a little push to the over from the public. I like going on the underside at 45.5. So if you're looking to bet 45.5, if you're looking to go in any other way, again, here is what you do. You download the DraftKings Sportsbook app right now. Use that code KCSN. When we go live December 1st, that $5 bet turns into $300 in bonus bets. Code KCSN in partnership with DraftKings Sportsbook. Remember, if you have a gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER, 21 plus and physically present in Missouri. Eligibility restrictions apply. Bonus bets expire 7 days after they're issued. Excludes customers who redeem pre-launch sign-up offer. Terms at sportsbook.draftkings.com/promos.
I'm Brett Goodwin, one of the owners of The Learning Tree. The Learning Tree is a neighborhood toy store in Prairie Village, Kansas. This has been here in this location since 2000s, and my husband Alan and I purchased the store in 2023. Alan and I grew up in families where we've always wanted to have a business together. Alan grew up, for instance, his parents had a jewelry store. I worked in a local toy store here in Prairie Village when I was growing up. When this opportunity happened in 2023, we knew right away we wanted to contact them and pursue the store. We wouldn't have been able to get the store without the team at Emprise Bank. From the day we contacted them, they knew what we needed to do, which was very helpful. I would absolutely recommend the team at Emprise Bank to anyone looking to secure a business. We worked with Emprise from day one. They were extremely helpful. They were always great resources. We talk to them frequently. They know the area. They're very friendly. We know who we're going to talk with, and they know what we need to do. We hope we'll see you at the Learning Tree.
All right, we're going to see how things go here. That is, in fact, a wild Nate Taylor live from Brazil. I have concerns and fears about every aspect of the quality of what's going to happen when we hit this unmute button right now. Nate, I'm going to ask you from the top. How's Brazil?
Nope. I think we can give Nate a "at least you tried" award.
Nate, you've got some sort of, I'm muting you again here. Nate, you've got some sort of, this is podcasting, baby. This is live podcasting. Nate, I think something's wrong with your mic settings beyond just the Wi-Fi, because all I hear when I unmute you is just a little bit of feedback. And so check your settings. Well, I'll at least loft up for Seth here. We talked about disrupting the passing attack. You want to start with the Chargers passing attack or the Chiefs passing game? You pick.
I think since we already were talking about the Chiefs passing game, that's probably the thing that I think the most dictates the game. because the Chiefs offense dictates any game when they are the Chiefs offense, right? That they dictate every game when they are who they try to be, when Mahomes is able to be kind of fully unleashed. So the stuff that we talked about at the top, kind of the sicko stuff with the offensive line, that's going to be a huge thing with the passing game. But really, Xavier Worthy's development, because it's been such a wild offseason in terms of like his development and Hollywood Brown ideally actually being part of the team, both flew really heavily under the radar because everyone's focusing on Travis Kelce, maybe having one more in him, right? Or everyone's focusing on the changes in the offensive line. Everyone's focusing on everyone losing their mind about how they talk about Patrick Mahomes. However, one of the biggest potential things is people who are not seeing this visually and are just listening afterwards. They're just missing out on Nate trying so hard to be a part of things. He's got food, it looks like.
Nate,
I love that
there aren't enough pixels there for us to tell what you're eating. I mean, so you say that, Seth, the podcast listeners aren't seeing Nate. We're barely seeing Nate. I see him holding up a circular, perhaps food stuff. And Nate, we could try killing your video and just try to get your audio in here, but I think you're having an audio mic problem there as well. Seth, why don't you keep powering?
Yes, I will keep powering on through. The role of Worthy and Brown is just, it's another kind of unknown, but this is one that I'm sort of excited about. You don't know what exactly they're going to be asking them to do. Well, the things that they asked Hollywood Brown to do later in the year weren't what they asked him to do earlier in the year when they were trying to fold him in. And it doesn't really necessarily fit with his strengths. So Mahomes is who he is. The offensive line we've talked about to death. If Brown and Worthy can legitimately partner with Travis Kelce, you can have a legitimately good trio there, even without Rashee Rice. And which was kind of the point of drafting Xavier Worthy and getting Hollywood Brown, was that you suddenly go 3 deep at receiver instead of 1 deep. You have multiple legitimate threats at multiple levels of the field. So can they keep him clean? And can those guys find not just openings within zones, but can they separate against man at all 3 levels? That's going to be kind of the story of the game. I think the Chargers are going to want to play some man coverage and then run some games while they've got some help underneath. They're going to have to be able to beat it, and they struggled with it last year and the year before.
I was waiting for your audio to catch up there, Seth. I think at this point our Wi-Fi is being tariffed to Brazil to try to give Nate a little extra juice, and it's simply not working. To a bunch of those points, obviously here trying to figure out what a Rashee Rice-less version of the offense looks like in 2025. They obviously did this last year for the vast majority of the season. I'll take anybody. I'll take anybody who appears to be Patrick Mahomes' favorite target tomorrow night. That's kind of thing I'm looking for. It doesn't even have to just be pure target volume. Nate's nodding, so this must be good analysis. I don't need it to be, if it's 8 targets for Travis Kelce, then it's 8 targets for Travis Kelce. But what does the intentionality look like in terms of getting Xavier Worthy involved? Or is Hollywood Brown, who, again, so bizarrely, was around for all training camp last year and then didn't play until the end of the season. At that point, things moved too fast, or, just he wasn't as big of a part of the offense as we expected. And then this year, he misses basically almost all of training camp and then all of the preseason. And now I was like, okay, well, is that 1 full offseason? Is that 2 full offseasons? He had a whole season mentally in the offense, just not physically there. I guess I do care who it is. Like, I think you want your youngest guys to be the ones who step up the most, but it's going to be telling. Like, if Juju Smith-Schuster has 6 catches for 55 yards, you go, okay, well, that's interesting.
It's something.
Yes, it will be telling, I think, of something. And I suppose if nobody has more than 3 or 4 receptions in this game, maybe Kelsey's the one that has more than that, I don't know. But if you have 3 or 4 catches spread around, it's going to be a really fascinating thing to look back on Tuesday to say, okay, was that spreading it around because nobody was separating, or was that spreading it around because you're just constantly picking your matchups and you don't have kind of an alpha dog in the absence of Rashee Rice? But I'll settle for any of those answers as long as the offense looks, I think, smooth and functional. That's what it looked like in week 3 against the Bears. And it's preseason and all of that. But that was such a nice little appetizer of a smooth, functional offense that went deep, could do its intermediate stuff. Just I'll take a full entree-sized helping of that, and I'll be very happy.
Absolutely. And then to add to that, I think best case scenario, it would be nice, like if, let's say Mahomes throws for 350 yards and it's spread out to everyone. I do think that's a really good case scenario. You'd still need someone though to have a big Mahomes game. You need at least one person as a receiver to have a pretty big game. Like the odds of having like 6 different guys with 55 yards, like that's not how that almost ever works.
So what about on the? Oh, go ahead. Sorry, I was looking away and I didn't realize you were still talking.
I was just going to say the best case scenario, I don't know why, it's something distracting. The best case scenario for the Chiefs is that it's Worthy or Brown. Or actually any of the receivers have a big game. That's best case scenario for the Chiefs. Because if it's Kelsey, people will say, well, we've seen that before. How sustainable is that long term? Defensive coordinators are going to say, well, yeah, we were already looking at Kelsey. We know this. Tyquan Thornton, let's say, having, like, remember the classic MVS stat line that I always used to joke about, 3 catches for 115 yards and 2 touchdowns. That's like, you give me one of those and
sign me up.
Yeah. Xavier Worthy has 8 catches for 140 yards and a touchdown. Hollywood Brown has 9 catches for 110 yards and 2 touches. Something like that would be a wonderfully, it would just be a great way to demonstrate to teams that you've got guys, because that's what they haven't had in the receiving room. Nate's in the comments now. This is what you miss out on if you're not live.
I was just about to say that Nate, currently, if you want to imagine it, currently Nate looks like he's broadcasting live from underneath the TMZ watermark. It's like there's security camera footage, a number of pixels, and there's just like lens flares that look like it could be letters.
I couldn't get a conviction if this was the video I had of Nate committing.
Holy! Whoa!
Do I sound better now?
Oh, you sound the sultry sound.
You sound great. Your audio is an hour. Your video is an hour and a half behind, but we're not going to look at the video.
Yeah.
We're going to just take your audio and we're going to just take whatever pixels we get of you visually.
Guys, I'm over here like Han Solo trying to fix the. Trying
you
to
were
fix
frozen
the
in
ship
carbonite for a while.
Mid-flare. Yeah, and that's a perfect analogy. She's not a beautiful baby, but she can get moving once I hit the buttons right. Brazil's amazing. The food's incredible. I'm going to show a photo of myself here very shortly from the festivities last night. And I'm at a warehouse somewhere in Sao Paulo that also includes the core 9 of Mark Donovan, Clark Hunt, maybe core 10, Roger Goodell. Roger Goodell's here. They might still be pouring beer for all I know. I did not take a beer from Clark Hunt or Roger Goodell. But this is where the Wi-Fi is. This is where I just wrote a 2,000-word story and kind of rewrote it based on new quotes from Clark Hunt and Roger Goodell. So thank you for being on this journey. What's the ship called again? Why can't I think of the ship now?
Millennium Falcon.
Millennium Falcon, dude.
Hey man, I've been speaking Portuguese for the last 12 hours. I don't want to hear it. Okay, so the Millennium Falcon he's a humming, and we might hit light speed by the end of the show. I don't know.
Nate, look, I'm going to say the end of the show is a whole lot closer than you think. So why don't you give us a couple of things here from your 48 hours or so in Brazil, if I have that right? I mentioned some of the presser stuff at the top because I watched those, but I wasn't there for them. So what struck you from that great country?
I think the biggest takeaway is this team from every level is so happy to be here. So happy to be here. There's a lot of joy and enthusiasm from the players, most notably Travis Kelce's impression of Patrick Mahomes was hilarious, and he's got really good comedic timing. I think Andy Reid enjoys sort of the bonding. This is like a different version of training camp in a sense because you are going to a foreign land. The team really does have to bond together. Guys, I covered the Chargers press availability yesterday. Because they're the home team, they get the nicer facility. They practice on a field where it looked like, hey, professional soccer players could practice on that field too. I understand the comments of the video I took today of them walking onto the field. I can assure you, Mitchell Schwartz, they put the walk through, because my high school had a better field than they do at the athletic club of Sao Paulo. Like, it's just, I mean, the field wasn't level, guys. It was great. They had rugby style goalpost. They walked through substitutions, personnel packages. I don't think I saw a single Chiefs player jog. Where
I was going to say, was there any jogging?
Where I asked the Chargers through play, like practice punt returns, a punt kickoff and kickoff return. And like, hey, let's look at like some intermediate passes between, you know, Justin Herbert and Keenan Allen. Like I saw that. Hey, I saw Najee Harris run through a little bit of you know, contact now that we know that he's going to play. So I don't think Chris Jones moved once on that field.
Good.
For today's
Nor should he.
Walk through.
No, 1,000,000%.
He should have gotten carried out there like a king on one of the, what are those things called? Like a pharaoh. He should have had 4. You know what? The other 3 defensive tackles on the roster should have carried Chris Jones out.
My favorite part of the video that you showed, Nate, and then after I say this, I'm just going to clear out the rest of the show because we need more.
I have an ending of the show. I want to say that. Nate, I was going to tell you before the show, but some things have changed. I have the ending of today's show.
One of my favorite things about the video you took, Nate, when you started the video, Andy Reid was already walking on, right? And there was like a trail that was leading up to the practice field, and you could see the spot where it kind of opened up where players could see it. And every one of the players and coaches slowed down. Like you saw them like slowing down. It was like there's the famous, I don't remember, it was some politician was like in someone's apartment or something, just looking disgusted. There was like this there was like this slowdown where they were just like, this can't be it, right?
So we walk across this field to get to the practice field. Is it over there?
Oh, is this the you know, covered up landfill that we have to cross to get to the practice field?
So Nate, let me ask you the question that people have been begging to know for a while, myself included. Hey, have you been to the stadium yet? Have you seen the playing field at all? Okay.
I've seen the playing field visually on television because interestingly enough, kids, they have ESPN 5 in Sao Paulo, Brazil. So I've seen some news reports. I wonder, like, is that where the Ocho came from? Because I'm kidding. I'm not kidding, guys. There's legitimately an ESPN 4, an ESPN 5, and an ESPN 6. I know people have accused me of watching tennis while my computer, the Millennium Falcon, had to get brought up to speed. I am not watching tennis or anything right now. Tennis is on ESPN 5 here. Okay, ESPN 1 is soccer, ESPN 2 is football, ESPN 3 is football, ESPN 4 is football, ESPN 5 is tennis. I think ESPN 6 was classics, like ESPN Brazil classics. Pretty awesome, honestly. So they have 6 channels here, guys. So in one of the reports, I did see the field. It looks nice. I'll get obviously a better look and feel of it tomorrow. So I'll try to report that hours before the game. In terms of just how much attention this game is getting, guys, they are treating this like the South American Super Bowl. There were more than sight to watch walk across a field and stretch.
We lost you there for a second, but I believe the sentence was there were 200 media members that were out there, is what you're saying, yes?
Yeah, there were 200 media members out there who took video of just the Chiefs stretching and walking on a field. Not a single pass, not a single rep of anything. Now, the Chiefs are contractually obligated to be available because they're in a new country. So, did you tour any slums? Guys, it gets dark here real quick, and the motorcycles go real fast, and I'm going to just stay with the locals. You know what I mean? I did have a nice couple beers. But this is the Super Bowl for Brazil. Oh, my computer's gone through hell and back trying to edit all of these things, guys. All of them. You know, they're treating this like the Super Bowl. It is quite telling to me how much fans are here. I think if anyone from the States is wondering, is it worth it for the Chiefs to come to Brazil, I can assure you they have hundreds of thousands of fans. It has been shocking to me, even just at this event, how knowledgeable, dedicated, invested Brazilian fans are, South American fans are. It's clear that the Chargers are a vehicle for the Chiefs to demonstrate, perhaps yet again, why more than half the stadium tomorrow could be in red. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if it's very similar to SoFi Stadium, where it's like, hey, 65, 75%
Chargers home game.
the,
I mean,
of the stands is red. I mean, it's just like, it's fascinating to me that, like, well, why is Roger Goodell here? Well, he's here mostly to see how it goes from year 1 to year 2 in Sao Paulo. But why is he at a Chiefs event and not a Chargers event? Guys, there are a lot of Chiefs fans here. I don't know. I did see Charger fans on the flight over, so shout out to them. They exist too. But it's clear that the Chiefs have enough of a interest, following, and honestly lustful desire. The way these women screamed when they saw Travis Kelce today, I ain't never gonna forget it, y'all. I ain't never gonna forget it.
I would please again. I asked this on Tuesday's show. Also, I don't know if Nate's had a chance to listen. I do need the commenters to keep us honest on the bingo card tracking, and I heard that phrasing from Nate, and I did just have to instinctively check. The word lusting is not explicitly on the card. It's that if Nate lusts for Martha Stewart.
Yeah, which
specifically, and I don't think you can fulfill that now. I feel like now I've said it, and so I
yeah.
No, and that's Nate Taylor
there's
of
a reason why it's there.
ESPN, the Entertainment Sports Programming Network.
That's what we're gonna have to do from now on. We're gonna start threatening to tag people in these shows.
So,
hey,
so
if
think about
anybody
this, guys.
in our audience starts tagging ESPN PR in things, you're a narc and a snitch and not a true voyeur, and you just mind your business, okay?
Fair.
Please, guys, please. They paid a lot of money to send me out here to these streets, literally.
Handle your business.
Okay.
Mind your business. That's Nate Taylor at a Brazilian steakhouse.
That looks like a lot of food that I really want to eat.
Boy, Nate, that looks great. I'm glad your camera decided to act right for the first time today for you to show us this photo.
Look at me. Look at that meat. Look at me. Look at that meat.
Josh, you had an ending for the show in mind?
Yeah, I did. And fittingly, I'm going to go ahead and say that it's a benediction. Fittingly, not because it's in the realm of Nate Taylor, but fittingly because I think we may need a little religion here. Nate's in Brazil. He's looking at meat. There's lusting going on in the arrival. I don't know. I'm not there. I'm here. But I was given something.
By the way, guys, that meat tastes immaculate. The meat tastes so immaculate. Go ahead, Josh.
Keep me out of this. Don't say my name so close to that sentence. I was given a gift by a friend and a friend of the show, and I'm going to also tell you about his podcasts because he does excellent podcasts that have nothing to do with sports, or very rarely. I have been blessed. We've all been blessed with a benediction from one Christopher Thomas Plant. You may know him from the Besties podcast, my favorite video game podcast for like a decade plus now. And he has a new show that he started recently called Post Games, which is him going kind of like magazine style almost, kind of issue to issue every week. It's a fabulous show. He's done a great job. It's still a pretty young show. If you want to catch up, you can do it. Post Games, wherever you get your podcasts. I'm a Patreon subscriber. That's how much I like it. But Chris is a Chiefs fan, and he had a vision for how we should be sent into the beginning of the 2025 NFL season. And I see Nate looking at me on his screen. Seth is playing with his wedding ring on his. And I just think more than anything else, we need to be sent off in the right direction. So without further ado, here is Chris Plant's benediction for the 2025 NFL season.
Today, listeners, we find ourselves once again standing at the bottom of the mountain. Our brows are held high, our eyes locked on Super Bowl peak. Between us waits a path of ecstasy and agony, and to my sons, Joshua, Nathaniel, and Sethamy, and to my only weird games flock, for the coming 6 months, I make of you a single request. Feel it. Do not just think of the numbers Pacheco puts up. Feel the man run, as if the ground itself made an unflattering comment about his mother. Do not just talk about the greatness of Patrick Mahomes. Feel the bittersweetness of a career that will one day end, as will, by proxy, our time on Earth. Feel the beauty of an October moon rising over Arrowhead Stadium. Feel your stomach churn when Jim Harbaugh talks about poultry.
Jim Harbaugh supposedly told a former player not to eat chicken because, quote, it's a nervous bird, close quote.
Feel the skin-tingling thrill of a last-second win against a 10-1 playoff contender. Feel the familiar confusion from a last-second loss to a 2-8 division rival. If we once again are blessed by the football gods to battle through the postseason, relish every single damn second as it happens. Not unlike a climber cherishing each night on this mountain. Because yes, reaching the peak may be the goal, but once you've reached it, there's nothing left to climb. There's nothing left to savor. Just a long trip down. You will one day look back fondly on this time, recounting the age of miracles to your friends at the nursing home between spoonfuls of Jell-O. But my friends, do not live in the future, nor should you hold the present to the impossible expectations of the past. Just be and feel it. Now please, open your hymnal and join me in song.
Wussenheimer, Wassenheimer, Schottenheimer, Polka. Marty's game plan is the baddest, that's no joker. No go fixing, not a thing if it's not Roka. Wussenheimer, Wassenheimer, Schottenheimer, Polka.
Amen.
Changed Rock of Ages.